Hi, I'm Garm1, and this is Midgardy RPG's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with Mike Myler. How's it going?
Hello from the grainy past of the 1990s.
You're here today to talk about Vast Kaviya, right?
Yes, Vast Kaviya, my primordial sword and sorcery campaign setting for D&D 5e.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, well, yeah, it's primordial sword and sorcery. So if you are into Xena or Conan or Red Sonja, Grognar the Barbarian, Thundar the Barbarian, Fire and Ice by Ralph Bakshi is my personal favorite. Then you will love Vast Kaviya. It's about a big adventure, high adventure, low magic. There are no wizards. Fuck wizards is actually kind of one of like the slogans of the campaign setting because like there's just not enough decentralized or dissemination of information for formal magic to have taken hold in Vast Kaviya yet. It's also super huge. So if you imagine like your computer monitor has a sphere and you put your pinky up to it, your pinky nail would be about the size of the North American continent if it was on the planet of Vast Kaviya. Right? So just
Good lord.
exactly. That's right. You have the right that feeling of like Jesus. It's so huge. That's Vast Kaviya right there.
The vast is not an exaggeration, is what I'm getting from this.
Yeah. There was some struggling over. Should we just call it Kaviya? And it's like, no, it's Vast Kaviya. We need to remind everybody every time they say it. It's huge.
Yeah. So I see you've got some weird races and classes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those?
Okay. Well, I mean, I should explain that this is not as much a Mike Myler production as normal. Because like with Varanthia Codex, my first campaign setting, this is my sixth campaign setting. So Varanthia Codex, I had a team of like 40 people I was managing to do maps and art and design and editing and this and that. And so I've been streamlining it since then, right? And Book of Exalted Darkness was just like me and two other people, including the artist. Um, but here, I opened it up and I got a whole bunch of other designers involved. So there's like 9 other people that helped me work on it. So not all the races and classes are my own, but I did write most of them. So among the new races, there's the primer has, which is free for everybody, by the way. If you want to check out the primer, check out the Game on Tabletop page. Go to www.vastkaviya.com. That's with K, and you'll be able to find it real easy, or just Google it.
There'll be a link
Um,
below.
yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, Mongrel Folk and Tinokar, which are like the dinosaur people, are in the free primer. You can check them out, no charge. And then we've also written up Plant Folk called Ally. These, my favorite are the Otuni, which are these like spirit parasites. So whenever you have your second death save, you can choose to like give up on the body that you're currently hosting, and you become this like psionic mist, sort of like a vampire does. And then you find a new corpse to inhabit and rejuvenate that, and then you just keep going. So the Utuni are sort of like these repositories of history in the world without centralized information. There are new genasi. There's like an insectile race called the Kanka. There's boggards, the toad folk, gnolls as a playable race, and then also sub races for halflings and dweorg, which are mistlings and mistweorg, respectively. So those are new races.
Nice.
Yeah, they are all awesome. Oh, and we have some Azamar subraces in there too. It's a big chapter. It's like
Yeah.
15,000 words. And then classes is even bigger. We got 25,000 words of classes, which is like half a novel worth. So it starts out with like archetypes, right? There's archetypes for pretty much every class. There's a moon cleric. There's well, except for wizards, obviously, because fuck wizards. There's a burning circle druid. Pyrokian monks, primal hunters, 2 different sorcerers. One that's sort of like, if you think of Mickey from Fantasia, where he's like directing all the brooms, that's like an animator sorcerer. And then they always require like extra material components to work their spells through. And then dreamer sorcerers, which are basically Jareth, the Goblin King from Labyrinth. You get like little dreaming orbs that you can use to scry around and stuff, and you can enhance people's dreams, give other people nightmares. It's neat. It's neat. And then, oh yeah, they're warlock patrons too. There's the grandmother warlock patron and the hive mind warlock patron. Hive mind is in the primer on page 35. And then there are 2 classes, both of which I had a hand in designing and first appeared in a Touchpoint class, which was an extremely popular crowdfunding campaign. What, I guess 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Somewhere in
Yeah,
there, yeah.
yeah, it went nuts. It was like over $100,000. It was just craziness. Um, so there's the Gemini class, which I wrote, which is like an agile warrior who doesn't get extra attacks. You create like semi-real duplicates of yourselves that can make attacks. So you get kind of like a mirror image that's also offensive going on. And your abilities change depending on conditions. So like what archetype you have matters. Every day when you wake up, if you are an atavist, you roll d20 on an even result, you feel old, and you get like bonuses in history and wisdom and stuff. Or if you roll odd, you feel young. You know, you're a little bit faster, you're a little bit more spry. There's a new archetype in this book for the damn it, I gotta look at the word when I say it. Nycthemeron. Boom. Which is to say that you get different abilities if it's night or day, right?
Cool.
So if it's daytime, you're stronger, you can carry more. If it's nighttime, you're sneakier and you're harder to see. And then even more appropriately for Vast Kaviya, there's the Monster Tamer class. So if you wanted to have a Rust monster pet or anything that is bigger than what a Beastmaster Ranger can do, you take Monster Tamer. It is so much fun. I'm playing a Monster Tamer right now in Storm King's Thunder. He is a giant subterranean lizard. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's neat. That sounds difficult to balance.
So, I mean, I could talk about balancing classes
Yeah.
forever because that's what I did that for 16 of them in a Touchmore class. It was actually among the easier ones to balance because essentially what you're doing is you're making a tank, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and you can make your Monster Tamer in multiple different ways, but mechanically it will function essentially in the same way that a Barbarian does. So Barbarians got a lot of hit points, and because they can rage, they effectively have twice as many hit points, right? They give themselves damage resistance. So you cap the monster's hit points to whatever the Monster Tamer's hit points is, and they get the big beefy hit point die. And then they have some like self-healing abilities, and they can like sack hit points to give temporary hit points to their creature. But what you end up getting is pretty much you can rely on the CR progression in the game. So like I think it caps out at the biggest monster that you can have is a CR8, and it has to be dumb. It can't have an intelligence higher than 5. I think it is. And yeah, I mean among the stuff we were doing, like the Bloodweaver was a kind of a little bit of a nightmare because it involved rewriting a whole ton of spells, and that was all on my shoulders. What else was a real pain? The Savant was kind of a because it was like reworking the whole fighter class and involved these like delayed trick thing. Yeah, I don't want to talk about this. Monster Tamer was among the easier things we tackled that way.
All right. I see you've got some prestige classes in here, which are unusual for 5th edition.
Yes, in Book of Exalted Darkness, I actually had somebody else make a prestige class, Luis Loza, who's this wonderful guy, great designer. He works full time at Paizo now. I'm very proud of him. And I was like, hey man, I'm going to give you the hardest thing in the book. So here you go. I have to deal with all these 400 other pages. So you handle this. And he made this really great 8-level prestige class for like if you want to be a lich or a golem or like it's called the Dark Transformation prestige class. It's very elegant. You can still fit in a decent amount of multi-classing with it if you really want to. You could potentially take it twice, which is so cool because then you can make yourself a dragon lich or a Rakshasa golem, and really elegant design. And so we've been following with that 8-level design, right? So you can play an elementalist that like eventually you can change yourself into air, or earth, or fire, or water. The Fractured Soul, which is like a very specialized shapeshifting. So if you want to be a shapeshifter but you don't want to go in for druid, you can take this. The Magic Eater, which is do you remember? No, I don't know. When did you start playing? Did you start playing 3rd edition?
3.5, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the what was he called in the Forsaker or something like that, where you were just like no fucking magic, no healing magic, no magic weapons, no. It wasn't the oaths.
It sounds
It was
it sounds familiar, but it's been 3.5 was a long time ago for me.
Well, it's the same concept, right? You say I refuse to use magic of any kind, healing, whatever, and so then you get like extra stuff. Like in this class, you can spend hit dice immediately to heal because you can't take healing potions. You can't, except to cure wounds. you get magic resistance. Eventually, your weapons start to ignore magic, so you get through stuff that is resistant to stuff that is not magical weapons, that kind of thing. Dispel magic with a hit, anti-magic aura. So if you want to be like the anti-magic fighter barbarian, that's an option. And then a very basic psionic class called the Primal Shaman, which is like if you think of psionics in the most blunt way possible, that's what they get. They can float a little bit. They get their own specialized list of spells. And yeah, that would be the last prestige class. All told, I think it's 4 of them.
Yeah,
Primal Shaman.
5 of them. That's
Okay.
what it says on the page, at least.
Oh, I gotta fix that. It's 4. It's 4. I dropped the 1. I was gonna include the Spellfire Channeler, which is this class all about absorbing magic, but because there are so few magicians and priests and stuff, the game, like I said, fuck wizards, so those read out. And then if you are gonna play a spellcaster in Vast Kaviya, it's kind of a dangerous proposition because everybody wants to like kill and or enslave you. So it's like putting a big target on your back. There's a whole section in the Adventurer's Handbook about how to play a spellcaster in Vast Kaviya. You want to do it on the down low. Don't let anybody know you got it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense to have the Spellfire Channeler as much as I enjoyed this Prestige class. Just Vast Kaviya is the wrong place for it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find another one. Cool. Any other particular elements of Vast Kaviya you want to highlight?
Well, I mean, there is no world map because, as I mentioned, it's just like impossibly huge, right?
Vast, if you will, yes.
Exactly. So there are exploration rules. There's a whole chapter on exploration rules. So whenever the party has finished, exploring an area, a given region, the GM rolls a certain number of dice, I think D8s, to determine what kind of regions they find, what kind of inhospitable regions they find. D20 to determine if they find any warlords, and then like additional dice to determine like what. So like, there's a long form like page example of it. So you find manpower, natural resources, supernatural, and depending on what kind of area you're in, those values change, right? So like in a grasslands, lots of manpower, lots of natural resources, not so much supernatural. Desert, slightly more supernatural, lower manpower, lower natural resources, so on and so forth. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a bit of an adaptation of the system from 2099 Wasteland.
Exactly, it's an adaptation compatible with. So if you have 29 Wasteland, it's very easy to use the Vast Kaviya exploration rules with it.
Cool.
And in fact, because this project sort of got born out of that, because like a lot of 29 Wasteland backers were like, "Can we please have another Warlord book?" And I just didn't feel like I had a whole other Warlord book in me for specifically apocalyptic stuff. I started thinking like, what else would I like to do? Oh, I'd love to do like a Fire and Ice type thing here with Vast Kaviya. And in the end of the primer, there's examples of how to take all the warlords and use them in medieval fantasy. And when the book is actually published, I have the pages prepared for how to take all the warlords into Mists of Akuma or Book of Exalted Darkness, or of course 29 Wasteland.
Cool.
So if you are a Myler fan, there are extra stuff in the book for you.
I have several of those things.
Yes.
I think I've got the Book of Exalted Darkness thing on somewhere behind me.
Yeah. Awesome. How'd you like it?
It's interesting. I haven't come across the chance to use it. I think running an evil campaign would be a personal hell, but there are a lot of really cool things in there. I am a huge fan of the Warlock patron, the meat.
Oh, the meat. I love the meat. You gotta feed the meat.
Feed the meat. Feed the meat. Anyway, yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I do have one other important question. I see that this is on Game on Tabletop instead of Kickstarter. Would you like to talk about that decision?
Yeah, sure. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, one of the designers on the team came up to me or emailed me and was like, "Hey man, did you see this Kickstarter union busting stuff?" And I was like, "No, let me read it and figure out what we should do." So I read about it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." So they had a knee-jerk reaction. Most of the time, management can fix that. Pretty much any company's management has a knee-jerk reaction when somebody says the word union, and then they get their senses about them, and amicable agreements arise. Then I found out why the Kickstarter workers wanted to unionize. So it was in the summer. There's a project called Always Punch Nazis, and then Breitbart wrote a bad article about Kickstarter, so Kickstarter pulled the project. All the workers were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then they put the project back up, and that's why the workers want to have more of a voice in the company because the management are all about placating Nazis. And I have a zero tolerance policy for Nazis, so no more Kickstarters for me.
Well, that's clear cut enough.
And by the way, I'm not saying that Kickstarter management are Nazis. I'm saying that they're ready to grab their ankles for Nazis. And in my book, that's essentially putting you in the same place. So,
yeah, yeah. I don't know much about the particular issue. I don't know if it's a little more nuanced than that, but I kind of doubt it, frankly. But
Nazis are it's pretty simple, man. You punch them or you shoot them. That's it. It's not like they were born Nazis. They decide. I'm not doing that. But yeah, so Game on Table, and it's an amazing platform. I've been wanting to work with them for a while. I met them at PAX Unplugged a year ago, 2 years ago, and it's like compared to what you have. So if you never run a Kickstarter, you have 2 sizes of font you can use for your Kickstarter page, and it's not improved at all in the last like 5 years that I've been using Kickstarter. It's the same exact old, outmoded way to display stuff, and then you go to Game on Tabletop, and it's more like a forums controls, right? So you have a lot of control over what your text looks like, sizes, and how you space things out. And then in addition to that, they've got like a built-in pledge manager, so there's no backer kit required. It's already there, and they take less money than Kickstarter, which is awesome. And then there's also these really snazzy stuff like the product previews tab. So at the very top, if you click over on the second thing, there's like a whole, it's like a digital shop face, and if you hover over this or that thing, it tells you what it is. You can click it and get more previews and information, and it's just like, it's super slick. And kind of made me angry when I realized how nice it was, because it's like, Kickstarter, you have all this money and you guys haven't improved anything in 5 years. Like, what?
Yeah, it's been exactly the same for a very long time. And if there's one thing I know about you and your products, it's you love strange fonts.
I do love strange fonts.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Is there anything else you'd like to highlight or talk about?
Just gonna mention the primer again. It's awesome. It's 40 pages. There's, I think, 14 monsters or something in there. And it's not stuff that I chose. It's stuff that the design team voted for. So one of the warlords is Togai, the Awakened Reef, which is awesome. It's this giant sentient coral reef that gets destroyed every season by the storms and drives the people nearby insane. And then once it recollects, like, other traders come by, and so there's like always swirling rumors about the Mash Archipelago. Then there's Kalar the Lizard Lord, which is totally me. It's a giant psychic dinosaur that lives in Sickle Canyon and has dinosaur lords that are also psychic, and like, it's this whole jungle alpha predator society thing. I'm a big fan of Kalar. I've been wanting to do Kalar for a long time. Then there's a couple monsters in there, like a barbarian thief, which is built as a PC. And whenever there are characters built as a PC, we have an icon. So like, if you want to do a quick, like, just like one shot, like, here we're in Vast Kaviya, there's somebody who can play Tarzan, there's somebody who can play Conan, there's somebody who can play weird islander psychic guy. And drop dinosaurs are in here. Oh, and the devastation creatures. So in the book, there's kind of like an OSR throwback, old school roleplay. There's 12 creatures called devastation creatures, which are just like devastating versions of creatures that people already know. So like, they see a cockatrice and they're like, oh, okay, well, just don't let it bite you. We should be all right. And then it starts like shrieking out, dealing psychic damage. And the more psychic damage you take, the more stone and petrification you deal with. And they're all like that. So like, there's a chance that if your passive perception is high enough, you're like, oh shit, that's not a regular cockatrice. But otherwise, it's just like a fun tool for the GM to upend player expectations.
Awesome.
And, yeah. Otherwise, check it out. Character sheet. Oh, the mana score is neat. It's like a bullshitting narrative element. I always include thematic ability scores. And in here, there is one. It's just not as important as normal. Like, Book of Boots, All of Darkness, Sin and Sanctity come up all the time. In Vast Kaviya, mana will come up maybe 2 or 3 times in a game session. And it's mostly just to give players a little bit more control over the story if they roll well. Anyway. But yeah, it's all explained in the primer, which is free at vastkaviya.com, VASTKAVIYA.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And this campaign, how long is the campaign running? I can't actually see because it says -3 days for me.
Sure. Well, I mean, it launches on Tuesday, October 8th. And I think we're closing it up on November 3rd.
Yeah, all right. I found it. It's just very small.
Yeah, just 25 days. We're looking for $2,500. That's like 100 people going in for soft cover pledges. I'm very confident we're going to do well, particularly because there's already been a lot of like sword and sorcery stuff on Game on Tabletop. All the Torg crowdfunding projects have been over here, and then I think a lot of the people who are into Torg are going to be like, "Oh shit, this looks awesome." Oh, and it's all decentralized. I should have mentioned this at the start. So like, there's no map, and you're supposed to all make your own Vast Kaviyas, and it's all built in a modular fashion. So even if you've got your own homebrew world, which most people do, they've been working on it for years with several gaming groups. It's a great supplemental book with like over 100 NPCs and 20 maps that you can include in your own world. So, yeah.
Plus more horrific creatures, which is always fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I like making my very specific campaigns. Like, Book of the Law of Darkness is a luxurious and decadent adventure, but it's not that useful if you don't want to play in a weird deco punk world, right? So I thought, like, let's make something that everybody can use.
I do love the weird deco punk aspects of it. The aesthetics are pretty good. Or like or Mists of Akuma's, steampunk Eastern noir.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for the sanity check on the Imperial Matchmaker copy. So I sent that over to my protege. It's a great dude named Angel Engelbright. He made the Ultimate Race Creator. He works for Loot the Boss. They're great. But yeah, it's like 167,000 words, and I'm really worried that I wrote over myself at some points. And I I read through it multiple times to make sure I didn't. But yeah, I have him doing a sanity check, and then once he's confirmed that it's not fucked up anywhere, it goes into layout. I can't wait to finish Imperial Matchmaker.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like 3 novels worth of words, man. I'm really excited to finish with it.
That's a lot of words. Yeah, I remember that Kickstarter. It's sounds interesting. But yeah, I think that about wraps that up then.
Right, well, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, and yeah, check out Vast Kaviya. It'll be up on Tuesday. I think this interview is going up whatever day it is today, Sunday. And yeah, check out GameOnTabletop.com. Have a good night, everybody.